running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. How's everybody doing this morning? I am solo today. BigBeat is at his NASDAQ event down in Miami. Markets are booming. Most of that here based upon what is going on with the trade, right? So everything's starting to look pretty good here, or a little bit better, I should say, when it starts to talk about trade. Let's find a screen that I like here. Let's go with that one today. So markets are moving nicely to the upside on that news here so far this morning. We see the Qs getting ready, as you can see on my screen, to open up, hopefully up about 1.13%. We have been dropping down from a high of 490. So 490 is going to be the spot where I'm going to put my line here today as the key sort of spot to get across and hold across here this morning. But at 10 o'clock, we're going to see President Trump from the White House here come out and supposedly talk about the UK trade deal. So we'll see what exactly that all means for the markets. What is it, what is actually included within, within that trade deal. That's going to be the big part of it. What's in there. I will warn already, we had the big move up already, but what we want to keep in mind that it's, the nature of the deal so far is being described as a framework, not yet a finalized or comprehensive trade agreement, likely included discussions on tariff rates, non-tariff barriers, and digital trade. We know that the U.S. recently imposed a 10% baseline tariff on all goods from all countries, including the U.S., and the UK is facing 25% steel and auto tariffs from the US. And the hope is that Britain will offer some concessions on its digital services taxes that target US tech firms. A couple of things I want to point out. From what I've seen so far, the talk is that they would go with the 10% baseline tariff moving forward and then talk about reducing that steel and auto tariff. So that would still leave that 10% hike in place. I do think it's extremely positive, though, to see that, one of the first countries to sort of come forward. I do think it is, like we said, we've been looking for this, but the question is going to be, do we get back to where we were, so to speak, before the talk of tariffs, or because they're really just ramping down on the percentages that these tariffs are going to affect goods, does it become a muted signal? So we'll see about that, and then, Trump claims that this is a template for deals with other nations. So that's where, to me, it's a little bit bigger than just US, UK. If this is going to be the template, what does it really mean? What did we receive from the UK in terms of assurances and lowering of stuff so that our materials can be sold there? The big things that it looks like this could help would be food is a big one that they're looking to get rid of some of the barriers for food sales into the UK. And then secondly, U.S. auto sales. I'm not as much personally concerned with the U.S. auto sales. I don't see Britain as being a huge user of our cars anyways. They really never have been, and I don't think they ever will be, even with the reduction of tariffs there. So we'll see how this all plays out, but that is it. The other big parts that came out of that for me was that the Prime Minister, Starmer, did invite Trump for a second visit to England, and it actually came from a handwritten invitation from King Charles. So, definitely, listen, we've been asking for something, right? I've been banging the table, yelling at Mr. Flanagan and BigBeat a little bit, saying, well, show me something. This could be it. My question is going to be, does this actually show us something, or is this just an announcement about an announcement, if that makes sense to everybody? And then that might not be great for the markets. from that part. You know, the second question I'll have is what we haven't been able to see is an extended move up when we've made these nice pre-market moves. Although I will say we've seen the sell-off come on this since about 8:30 already across the Qs. If I take, whoops, wrong chart came up there. If we take a look at the minute chart, you can see that we, you know, we sort of capped out here this morning right around 7 o'clock towards that 490 area. And then we retraced and tried to hit it again here earlier at 8:30. And now we've retraced from that. So that's why I say 490 is sort of stepping up as the area to watch here, 490. And then the second sort of resistance zone is going to be right around 490.75 this morning. So those would be the key areas that I'm looking to see if we can bounce back, you know, through those two areas here today. And if so, then maybe we get some, you know, some definite animal, you know, spirits in the markets, and it keeps us moving in the right direction. What else did I have on us today? Let's get through my notes here. I'm going sort of through the sector trends here. You know, technology and digital advertising has seen some love here today after AppLovin's strong performance. It highlighted the resilience of the digital advertising platforms. So it is moving up. E-commerce, Shopify had some mixed results. We'll go actually into the individual stocks as opposed to that. Things that are moving today in a big way, either up or down. As I said, AppLovin being the first one to sort of take a look at here. And we can see the big spike that happened on their earnings yesterday. AppLovin is trading right now at about 347, up 14.5%. Nice move to the upside off of earnings. They reported a robust Q1 revenue up 40% year over year. Revenue now at $1.48 billion and net income of $576 million. Company also announced the sale of its mobile gaming division for $400 million, retaining a 20% stake in the buyer. So it allows AppLovin to focus more on its core advertising business, which has shown strong growth. So nice move up here on AppLovin. The only thing, again, you know, I don't tell people what to buy and sell, but that move up, it's been a muted reaction since then over the last 5 or 6 hours. Starting to see if we blow up this hourly chart here, the start of what we call the Bart Simpson, right? We have the big move up from the ears to his here, and then like his head, we kind of go this way. Problem is we're unable to see the next break to the upside. What usually happens is we retrace at least half of this, if not all of it. So keep an eye that you have downside back to that 315 area here on AppLovin. If you made that move today, you know, you got really good profits, 14%. Don't be afraid to take that profit like we always talk about here. Be nimble because it, you know, it all could go quickly here, you know, depending on the tweets that come out of the White House and then out of England after that. Next one to take a look at here today is Shopify. Down 6.58% here. They had been up earlier this morning and then retraced since then here. So Shopify's Q1 earnings beat the revenue expectations. Their sales, again, up 26.8% year over year. However, the company reported a wider than expected loss and missed operating income estimates, leading to a 6% drop so far. The elimination of the de minimis tariff exemption by Trump administration could impact Shopify. And again, for those that don't know, there was sort of if you were selling goods that cost less than a certain amount, you were not affected by some of the tariffs, but that has been eliminated. And it's affecting companies like Shopify, Temu, and Shine. So one that has dropped down here, you know, about 5.8%. So far to me, this is not an overextension of a sell side. It fell. And again, I'll point out, even though BigBeat doesn't think that charts matter right now, they definitely do. And why I point that out is where did it drop to on the bad earnings? Directly, well, let me pull that out actually, to the 200-day MA. So, you know, it dropped right to it. It's right at it. So these things do matter. These are what you want to look at. So to me, it's, if the 200-day holds up, this could be a nice play to the upside on Shopify. On the other side, breaks below that 200-day MA, look for a drop down to the bottom of this linear regression towards the 75 area. So, again, your charts definitely tell you what's going on. What it is it doesn't tell you what in the news is that's going to come out that may affect that. Sorry, give me one second. Sorry, when I'm by myself and have to answer or do something here, it takes me 1 second. Okay, so Shopify, MicroStrategy, nice move to the upside here. As you guys know, one of my favorite companies, although I am a little concerned with the amount of Bitcoin that they are accumulating, up almost 2 points yesterday, another 4% here this morning. Again, they had earnings. The biggest surprise from their earnings on MSTR was the fact that they didn't choose to announce with the new accounting rules that are in place that would have allowed them to go from showing a negative EPS to a positive EPS, because it would account for the profitability in the Bitcoin that they're holding, the unrealized gains or losses from them. But here at 408, nice move to the upside. Key here is staying above that 404 level. Anything above 404 keeps me very positive on MSTR. A lot of you know I've actually been in MSTR and MSTU, which is a 2X ETF from Tuttle Capital, MSTU. I am actually at the point of looking to, I'm going to take my size down on this trade here today, on this big jump up. I got into it, well down below in the $5 area here. So I am going to take some profits on there today. Not going to take it all off, but I am going to start to book some of those profits. It's just been a nice, huge win for me. And again, as we advise, you don't want to stay, don't be a pig, be a bear or a bull. That's what works. All the crypto names, some of the bigger movers here this morning, Coinbase, another one, up about 5.16 here. And I guess we should take one step back. I was wrong. I said Bitcoin was going to go to 98,000. It broke through it and did get to almost that 100,000. Didn't get quite to 100. Got to 99,897. Great move up. So we are seeing it. It did not do the Bart Simpson here. Then this is a perfect example to show you the opposite of what what Apple Oven, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of times it comes down. It didn't. We saw that next level. It broke the key resistance at 96,572 and continued its move to the upside here. 100,000 has a big sell wall, though, right now. So it will take a little bit to get through it. Any move above 100, though, puts us right back into that 103, 104 range. So that's what I'm looking at here on a retracement. Again, I'm keeping my eye on that 96,572, but Bitcoin looking extremely strong. All the metrics looking good there. I didn't pull up the amount of, give me 1 second here to see the amount of liquidations. I looked at it much earlier. Let's see what it's at now. And last 24 hours, we've seen about $376 million in liquidations. And if I look that down a little bit more, let's see where most of them were. Over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin was responding basically $135 million in liquidations across Bitcoin, and just as surprisingly, $109 million across Ethereum. Ethereum, the big jump, 9.4%, trying to get back above 2,000. Again, I will point out both of these are at key resistance right now. You got Ethereum at 2,000 where the wall is sort of set up right now. And you do have Bitcoin with the wall at 100,000. Everything's been a blown off top here. At Ripple back at 221. Solana is the one to keep an eye on, really blasting off back up at 155 here. nice move up, 5% move to the upside. The meme coins are moving too. Pepe up 12.24% this morning. Fetch AI, one that you guys know I've been talking about here, a nice little move up too, also 7.69. Chainlink, nice move up. Cardano again, now challenging the 75 area. That 75 area, though, has been tough resistance. So again, we're hitting a little bit of resistance here. Now is going to be the key time. We're going to see, do we have the strength to break through this resistance and start to establish newer highs, or did we just trade to the top of the range and now we're going to come back down? That's what we'll be looking at. The other thing, Mag 7, all nicely moving to the upside in the pre-market here. We see NVIDIA up again, another 1.43% over 117, actually above 118, challenged 119 earlier this morning, has fallen back from that level. Apple up about 70 basis points, Microsoft up 67 basis points. Nice bounce from Google. As you guys know, if you were listening to me yesterday afternoon with Charlie Moon, we both basically called that as a pivot point around the 148. Never got all the way down to the 148 spot. But, if you were listening to us yesterday afternoon, it bounced right at that 150 level. It got down to 149, I think 63 or so, before bouncing up. Didn't get quite to the 148 we were both looking at there. Amazon up about 1.6% here. Meta up 1.83%. Tesla continuing to move to the upside, also up another 1.31%. And Netflix back above 1,150, up another 0.5 percentage point today. If we move and take a look here, the tick is slightly negative right now, but if we look at advanced decline, up around 2,719. So we are a little bit muted here over the last few minutes leading into it. DXY has taken a little bit of a rebound, and now it's moving back to the downside. Had broken back nicely above the 100 level. So King Dollar trying to make a play. More importantly for me, it put us back in line for what Steve Flanagan talked about, saying that the King Dollar needed to finish up for the week. That's going to be this chart I'm going to pull up here. And we can see it closed the gap last week. It closed right about $100.05. So this move back up over $1 today put us back in play. Quite honestly, we were trending down here this week, down towards the low 99s. So that move is a good move. It is showing that maybe this, the first talk of removing some of the tariffs could be the boon that we're looking for here. The question is it a bear market? Is it a bull market pump and a bear market, in a bear market, is it just a bull market pump, or is it sustainable? That's what we'll find out here. As I said, Q is still on track to open up about 1.16% to the upside. Gold did slip down a little bit overnight. VIX has moved down nicely again to that 22 under 23 area. It's below. So as you guys know, I sort of have two zones. So, I love it down towards the 15 area. That's when I like to buy the VIX, and it means the markets are moving really well without any sort of tweet analysis. You go back to fully technical analysis. We're trending right around this 23 area, and I have it marked as 2285. 2285 to me right now has been sort of the mean that we keep on retracing towards, but unable to really hold below. Every time we make a break below it, we then come back across it. So that's what I want to see. Can we actually break below and stay below this line? We challenged it, last several days. We've tried to stay below it, unable to do so. Can we do that and start to get some breathing room into the market? That would be it. My other question I have for you guys out there and listening to us, do you think this pre-market was the move, or is it the start of the move? That's the question we got to keep an eye on today. Is this, what we've seen a lot of times is the big pre-market moves, post-market moves have then later on, been sort of just been muted from there. They move up and down, a little volatility, but sort of stick around those levels. Or what we've seen is even, this 1.15% move to the upside in the Qs gets sold off on the open. Then we spend the rest of the day, moving back up to that spot. So, or what we've seen the other side is we've seen a blow through, nice move to the upside on the open, and then we sell off the rest of the day. So what I want to see is, do we actually have enough market momentum to get us to trade positively throughout a trading day, because we haven't really seen that, part of it being that the tweets come fast and furious. We do have Secretary Bessent and some of the trade envoys are going to meet with China also. I had that headline up earlier. The talks with China will begin today. Let's get back into some of the individual stocks that I'm watching here this morning. On the decliners, we had earlier Cleveland-Cliffs, aluminum steel producer, down almost 9% here after their earnings. They reported a GAAP net loss of $483 million for Q1. Company announced plans to idle 6 facilities to generate over $300 million in annual sales, focusing on optimizing its portfolio and targeting growth in the automotive sector. So I don't personally think that was a very positive, for these tariff talk, right? Some of the companies that were supposed to benefit the most from those tariffs and maybe would already be reporting some decent news from them would be a Cleveland-Cliffs, a U.S.-based, steel producer. But we're not really seeing that. Said the company's undertaking significant operational changes to improve its financial standing. Like we said, they're going to idle those 6 plants. They do expect their flat rolled steel output to remain unaffected. So, the parts, like I said, that they're looking to focus more on the automotive. It said the strategic decision is part of the company's broader effort to reposition itself away from underperforming non-core assets and strengthen its focus on the automotive market. So maybe they do really feel that, auto plants are going to pick up in the U.S. or that, again, this to me would be a channel check that they're talking like that they do believe maybe there is some, legs to the fact that the U.S., Canada, and Mexico will work better together, and that trade pact could be on the horizon, or at least that we don't even need a trade pact, and that, the current one will stay in place. Tick is still pretty muted here. Like I said, it's been staying right around that, that's really muted for a tick here. You usually see the volatility like this with big swings. And what we're seeing right now is a pretty muted tick here so far. So there's not a whole bunch going on in the pre-market. Does look like people might be waiting for the 10 o'clock, news hour to see what comes there. Another company you guys know that I talked about that I liked on the dip the other day, actually moving back up a little bit today, is Ford Motor Company. I do think that, even though that their guidance showed heightened risks, including that projected $1.5 billion hit from tariffs, company reported a surprise adjusted profit of $1 billion in Q1. I feel good about Ford. I like this move up here. It looks like it wants to move to the upside. So Ford's one I'm keeping an eye on myself this morning. Another one that had been hit pretty hard after its earnings release was Fortinet, FTNT down almost 9% between last night and this morning. They reported Q1 revenue of $1.54 billion, up 14% year over year. I'm trying to give you some of the reasons that it did here. Let me get through my stuff. I don't know why it doesn't want to load up here for me. Doesn't want to pull up. I don't know. We are 3 minutes from the open so far. As I said, Mag 7 so far are looking to open all in the green, led by Google, then Meta and Amazon and NVIDIA all up nicely. I know BigBeat's taking a victory lap for his NVIDIA trade there that we are both in. And again, one that I might look to take a little profits here on a nice move up today. Seeing the Qs continue to struggle a little bit, continue to slide to the downside here. So we are seeing some sell-off before the pre-market open. It looks like people are a little spooked to that. We'll mention also after yesterday's Fed announcement, we do see the 10-year and the 30-year both moving back up to the upside a little bit. I'm sure that everybody is sick of listening to breakdowns of what the Fed said yesterday, but in general, they weren't negative. Basically they weren't positive. They stayed pretty neutral. Fed Chair Powell did warn that Trump's new tariffs could delay inflation progress by up to a year, which in turn may push back interest rate cuts. So again, we get back the hot potato, right? We know the president put it on Powell. Powell now putting it back and saying, well, you sort of threw this, wrench into the works. So we're going to have to wait for that to come through for this to happen. Like I said, Powell's comments were subtle, but they did include a line that tariffs could delay progress towards our goals, at least for the next year, let's say a year. He reiterated the Fed stance that no rate cuts until inflation shows real progress towards 2%. They did sort of say now that economic data since March is now forecasting more inflation, in some case a possible recession. He did not comment on Trump at all in his threats to fire him, but framed the tariffs as a destabilizing position. And he did reject the idea of a full-blown 1970-style stagflation for now, but that the Fed is clearly monitoring the risks. So like I said, it wasn't much of anything. And then, at 4:00, when the news came out that we were moving forward with some of these trade talks, it definitely, moved the markets to the upside. So let's see what we get here. We are 1 minute from the open. Bitcoin struggling a little bit back down at 99,441, giving up a little of its gains here so far. Those that weren't listening yesterday afternoon, two interesting discussions with Anne-Marie Bain about, the crude market. She is so tied into the markets there. And one of the comments she had is that she's hearing that we're not refilling our SPR maybe as one of the biggest components of the inflation data, the CPI data is fuel and gas, and that the idea is to keep that low to keep inflation or push inflation to the level that Mr. Powell needs to make the next moves. Okay, so we are open here. Tick is pretty muted here, even on the open, quite frankly. Q's first move slightly to the downside. See what we've got going on here. Do see Fox reporter on X, Wall Street executives with ties to the White House tell me the India-Pakistan tensions slowed the trade pact with India, and it's the reason UK is coming first. Deals on deck include South Korea and Japan, where talks are said to be moving along. So that would be great. Again, what I do want to be able to see, though, is the fact that, it's not just talk about talk. Also wanted to talk about the fact Coinbase, one of the reasons they're up so far today is the fact that they have bought the crypto options company Deribit. Deribit is one of the largest futures options giants out there when it comes to the crypto world. They're buying it for $2.9 billion, locking in a foothold in the U.S. derivative market. Deribit saw 1.2 trillion in volume last year. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. What I will point out is currently Deribit is geo-blocked from the U.S. So if you are a U.S. citizen, you actually cannot use Deribit. So, or you're not supposed to. You can use it, and they, it's not illegal for you to use it, but they are not supposed to market to the U.S. company. And this puts them and Kraken had both been trying to buy the company. And everybody knows Deribit had been for sale for a while. And what we saw is Kraken instead has purchased NinjaTrader, for those that don't know. and now Coinbase doing this. So, it's not getting far away. It sounds crazy, but the futures market is really going to be disrupted by the crypto markets or the crypto exchanges, because most of them were already and had already gone through the CFTC, regulations that they needed to go through to be regulated as, futures and options trading companies. And that's where it seems like they're going to battle TradFi for that. And I would point out that, again, because of the way the market is moving 24/7 when it comes to futures and all this, and the way that they do work and are trying to settle instantly, blockchain technology is the answer to that. So it will be very interesting to watch. I personally am, as most people know, have love Coinbase for that fact of that. So definitely one to keep an eye on here. Let's see what's going on here. Tick slightly down, still pretty muted here in general. Qs have moved to the downside, so we are seeing a little bit of a sell-off across the tech sector. SPY 560, 464 moving to the downside. All of these are setting new lows here for the morning, so we are seeing first moves sending us to lows on a couple of these. Dow Jones opened up a half a percentage point, so nice gap up there, and the Dow is holding better than the others, so that could be a good signal for us moving forward here. RUT is up almost a full percentage point here also, so nice move up by the small caps too. So we are seeing love from small caps. Let's take a look at our pumpers. So some of the companies up the most today: Sezzle Inc., CSEZL up 29.49%. Like I said, AppLovin up 12.37, Axon up 11.46 here. I've seen a lot of the bigger names, a lot of the crypto names like we know are up. Core Scientific up 6.74, and we've seen that. Robinhood up 4.76% here. We are seeing gaming getting a little bit of love. Melco up about 4.79 here. Mara staying in Bitcoin crypto mining area up another 4.54. Riot up another 4.42% here. I said Coinbase up about 4%. BitDeer is another Bitcoin mining company up around 4% here this morning. We do see MicroStrategy up 3.63, like we talked about. Has dropped back down to 406, was above 408, so keep an eye on that here. But all the sectors, so we're definitely seeing, there are winners across each sector here this morning. It is more of a broad market win than particular to one sector or another. In fact, if we look, well, there is some discrepancy. We do see XLV, which is healthcare. Healthcare getting hit pretty hard here, down about a full percentage point this morning. And utilities, and we know Cleveland Cliffs a big reason for that, down about 32 basis points here this morning. The bigger move is to the upside, of course. XLY, which is consumer discretionary, XLB, which is the material sector, and XLE, which is the energy sector. So those are the ones leading the way here this morning for us. And we continue to slide a little bit here. So they're slightly picked up back towards that 23 area. Advanced decline, I mean, it's positive 3,600, so that's still looking good. DXY is starting to pick back up a little bit here, trying to find a bottoming and move up at 99.93, so we like to see that. Bitcoin at 99,600, so not able to hold above the 100,000 level there. Just trying to see what's coming across. tick has gone slightly negative. So again, we're not able to get the broad market move to the upside here in the cash market. First moves have been to the downside. But we are moving back on the Q to the middle of our trading range, whereas we were at the bottom there for a second. Let's see what we got going on here. Does look like health services are down. Transports are sort of in the red also. Let's pull this over. See, let me share this so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Okay. There we go. So looking at our heat maps here, we can see crypto markets mostly in green in general. We got a few things, a few of the smaller cryptos moving to the downside. Nothing that really matters. Taking a look at those. You know, when it comes to the stock market, though, we've got a little bit more of a mixed bag, mostly in the green. I don't know why it's showing Apple is down 1.17 here. Is that true? No. Seems like it's got a little bit of delay going on here. Okay, well, let's get back to my trading view. And we do see most of the mag starting to sell off a little bit here. NVIDIA back at 117.40 here. It was up as high as 118.59. So we are seeing a little bit of weakness here come across the Mag 7. Apple selling off a little bit here. So algos are selling us off here across most of them. Microsoft holding up a little bit better. Google, no, that's sliding down too. Everything's sliding down now. We know Amazon had been up over a percentage point, sliding down also. So a lot of everything's sort of selling off here right now. We're seeing tick go pretty negative, and the advanced declines lost about 500. So we are seeing this move to the downside. I don't see any news moving us right now, so I'm not quite sure what has us moving to the downside here. But we now see the SPY at 564.76. So again, we are seeing on the minute chart that linear regression is downward facing. Same thing on the Q. We're seeing a little bit of it down facing right now. So we are seeing momentum push us more to the downside than the upside so far. Bitcoin continuing to drop too, seeing some sell-offs. Again, not surprising if you woke up, you know, if you were buying in the 70s just, you know, less than a month ago, you are feeling pretty good about that position now. Nice move up by Boeing here back to 187.48. So nice little move to the upside there. Let's take a look at the banks here today. Banks all in general looking pretty good. We see Morgan Stanley up 1.63%, Goldman Sachs 1.57%. And then we see JP Morgan and Bank of America trading in tandem, almost up 1.31% each together. It's a little bit of a move there. Chips after their earnings yesterday got hit really hard, down 6.35%. So a big move to the downside here by ARM. but the rest of the chips moving nicely to the upside. Intel 2.76 and AMD 3.9, the two main winners there. And a nice move up by AMD. MSTR trying to battle above 410 here, so nicely moving to the upside. Like I said, I could look today, probably ought to move up to 420 or so, 425 to lessen my position in MSTR this morning. So we'll see how that plays out. Coinbase up 4.38%, Mara up 3.68. Not unexpected as Bitcoin tries to challenge 100K here this morning to see that move that way. We're continuing to slide here across most of the indices. Let's take a look at the laggards here so far this morning. Peloton down 15%, getting hit pretty hard here. Like we said, we talked about Fortinet down 11.49% here. Cognate Communications down 13.79%. Warner Music getting hit pretty hard here, down almost 10%. Avis down about 8.82% here. Molson Coors down 6.83%. So we are seeing, there are some losers in this market. Penn Entertainment, which for those that don't know is a gambling company, down about 4.9 here. We talked about Shopify this morning on bad earnings. Warner Brothers Discovery down 4.15. SanDisk down 4.39. So we are seeing some weakness there. Seeing some weakness here in the minings companies too. SSR Mining down 3.39. We talked about Cleveland Cliffs earlier. Seeing what else seems to be down to the downside. Not much else that really catching my eye there. We are 15 minutes into the open, and like I said, so far it's been a muted cash market. We are sort of stabilizing. We bounced off the bottoms of the cash market price, but we haven't really risen too far up from those. We are not challenging yet where we opened. So that's going to be the key to get above where we opened here on a lot of these. See if we can get that move. And again, all eyes will be at 10 o'clock on the White House to see what happens there. Okay, well, we'll see again. The talk seems to be, is this full and comprehensive versus framework for a trade deal? Because those two things matter. It seems like that has the markets a little bit on edge, whether or not seeing the VIX trying to bounce back above 23 here. So not loving that. We'll say Warner Brothers Discovery announced that they are looking to split their company apart. See what else is. Those are the main things. Most of the Chinese stocks doing. Now it's a mixed bag across. So it's a mixed bag across all stocks. I like to see that. It's not everything is moving up. Okay, we're seeing the Mag 7 starting to catch some bids here again. NVIDIA back at 117.78, so starting to move a little bit more back to the upside here. Apple still trading to the lower side of their daily trading range. Google also. Or excuse me, Microsoft. And Amazon at lows of the day. So Amazon definitely selling off a little bit here. Tesla is the one that keeps on taking off, now up 3.52%. So nice move up here by them. I mean, I do think everything today is going to be about what we see out of the White House at 10 o'clock. That's going to drive the markets here. I'll see if any of the crypto is still moving to the upside. They're really not. I will point out crypto sometimes moves first here, and you can see on most of these they've gotten top heavy and starting to fade a little bit out. So let's see what we get here. I mean, with that being said, all of them blew through the top of linear regressions here, so they did a nice move to the upside here. Would not surprise me to see some selling, and we've seen it. MicroStrategy being one of them here. Again, wanted to broach 510, now back down at 405.94. So we are still seeing some weakness and some sell-off as soon as we start to get some momentum going. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. Tick still negative 300. VIX did just broach the 23 here. So we are seeing a little bit more volatility pick up. Again, as we are about 12 minutes from the president coming out to speak. Let's see what other news is hitting here. Yeah, everything's just waiting for Trump. So that's where we're at right now. Tick is negative. It's continued to be pretty negative here. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. You can see Tick has been sliding down here over the last 10 minutes or so, still moving to the downside. So we'll see there what we get. Okay, everybody, we're going to end a little bit early today since I am solo. I've got some things I've got to take care of here. Everybody have a fantastic day. Be careful at 10 o'clock. Let's see what the president has to say. Do we actually get a trade deal, or is this just the framework of a framework of a framework? I think the market will let us know from there. Everybody have a fantastic day.